Our main speaker today is David Oliverio. David is a former traveling evangelist who began his journey from doubting secular humanists in 1989. He's now the host of a YouTube show based in Austin called The Preaching Humanist. So please help me welcome David Oliverio.
Thank you, Alexis. I want to thank Alexis and Will and you fine folks at Oasis for having us come back from Austin to one of my favorite places, Houston, Texas. Christine knows that I would like to live here one day. One of these days, maybe we can even move here. But we love coming here. I love what I see here. I love, after meeting with many of you fine people last night at a particular restaurant, don't remember where it was, because it was way past my bedtime, like 8 o'clock. But I like to see what different groups here, secular groups coming together, solidarity, working together for a particular cause. And I'm really happy about that. And I'm also happy that no one's sitting too close to me because I'm known as a sprayer, a spitter. So y'all are at a safe distance away. I don't have time for a bio. I got 30 minutes. I'm going to jump right into it. I got my Lord and Savior Google timer here going. And as you can tell, I used to be a Pentecostal preacher. I like to move when I talk. I don't like to be restrained down. And I use this microphone when I do talk. So I am the Preaching Humanist. That's my little name for my show. I've been doing it for about 4 or 5 years. Basically what I do now, I don't go out and preach to people, but I do go out on the weekends for different secular groups in Austin. I'm helping others here to get started. I'm very excited about it. Those of you wanting to get interested in what we've been doing for a while, Will and Viral and the others here. So basically, before I get into the message, this is what my latest adventure is. I know you can't read it from here, but I have this little card, Austin Secular Communities. I have all 5 of the secular groups in Austin on here with their names and the websites. What I do, I don't go out there and preach to believers. I don't try to change their minds. I go out there and inform people about secular humanism. I go out and talk to people that there is a healthy alternative to theistic religion. Something you got here, right? For those of us that have let go of God belief. And I tell believers that what we do, we miss the good part of church, right? The community, doing things together. So my job is to promote these groups. I go out and believe it or not, there are more people that are secular like us out there than you know. I go to Georgetown, I go to San Antonio, Alamo, different parts of Austin, with my secular humanist signs and so forth. And I pass out this information and just educate people. And there are a lot of people out there looking for communities. I think this is very important. That's what I'm pretty much about. You can watch my YouTube show, The Preaching Humanist, and I go on and on about these different topics. I have hundreds of videos on there. So I would identify as a very strong secular humanist, also a very strong atheist. My atheism is nothing more, nothing less than simple unbelief in a God, right? I don't believe in a God, but what do I do with that? Really nothing. Secular humanism is above and beyond even atheism, right? So I grow and mature into that, and it would be defined as a movement, a philosophy, or even some people would call it a secular religion, depending on how you want to define religion. It is a healthy, positive alternative to theistic religion. And I see it as a slow evolutionary process because evolution works pretty slow, right? We can discover that in science. I see this movement of secular humanism as this movement of ethics and morals, being good without God, right? And loving each other, promoting the good for all humanity. I like people to be happy. I like people to be disease-free. I like people to be free from poverty. I like people to be free from suffering. That's what we want to do, is promote good for all. But I do see this movement as a good way, or a very evolutionary way of slowly changing from beliefs in the supernatural into more the view of naturalism, which most of us would adhere to. I think of Pythagoras, the pre-Socratic Greek philosopher who made that famous statement, right? What's the measure, what's the standard of all things? Well, the human enlightened mind, mankind, humans are. And I often have some fundamentalist Christians who are not very happy with me when I have my humanist sides. Sometimes I don't even bring my atheist sides, and they still get upset, some of them, because I'm replacing Christ, the Christian, for Christianity with human. They don't like that. But that's reality to me, is making ethical sense of this world, being a human, being a primate, using reason, science, and we make full room for the full human experience, which is the arts, music, literature, poetry, and beautiful music and wonderful music like we heard this morning. And I told those guys, 3-letter word, wow. That was very incredible music. So, secular humanism has a lot to offer. That's what I do. It is time for we who identify as secular people, we who identify as atheists or agnostics, whatever you want to call yourself, an unbeliever, that's fine. But it's time for us to talk about what we do believe, the positive affirmations, rather than what we don't believe. I was one of those kind of guys, always wanted to look for a fight with believers. Now, I let go of Christianity 30 years ago as a young preacher back then, but I outgrew that stage of my angry atheist stage. I just talked to somebody about that. When you outgrow that stage, you grow into secular humanism. You want to help and expand this. So we do have something to share. And it's time for us to promote what we do believe. The thing I'd like to talk about is existentialism. Existentialism, as you know, Christianity and other religions have capitalized on this beautifully. They have given answers to people. People want to know about the meaning in life. Like my new friend this morning at 4:30 in the morning at the Holiday Inn. That was a nice pick there, Alexis. I like that motel. I get up early, and I was up at 4:30, and I had a good conversation with the gentleman at the motel, drinking my coffee this morning, and he's from Pakistan, and he's a Muslim. We had a good talk, and I began to explain to him what I do, right? He was blown away. And I told him about Oasis. I told him about what we do, because I love to put a face on secular humanism and atheism and agnosticism. I like to smile. I like to show people that we are moral and ethical, just like they are. And when I talk to believers, I say, we have shared values with you. 80 to 90%, we would agree about ethics and morals. They're good people. We're good people. So he had the questions of existentialism. Why are we here? How can you find happiness in life? How can you find meaning in life? How do you find these things without belief in the supernatural? Guess what, folks? We've got some answers. We have answers. We don't have all the answers, but we do have a lot of answers in reality. So that's what I want to talk about today. 4 quick things. What we believe. Let's get a hold of this. Number 1, we believe as secular people. I think most of you would agree with me that ethical values, moral and ethical values, are derived from, back in the old days, I would say, came from the Bible, right? The 10 Commandments or the Quran or whatever. We believe that ethical values are derived from human need, human interest, and tested by experience and the all-important capital C word, consequences. We become consequentialists. I hope I said that right. My wife is a middle school teacher with an English major. She keeps me on the straight and narrow in my word pronunciation. So we test these ethics and morals by the consequences. Now, what a lot of people don't understand about ethics and morals, how can you be good as an atheist? How can you have ethics and morals? Why do you want to be good? Why do you want to go feed homeless people? Now, every Saturday morning, Some of you guys go out there with me and help me in Austin. I carry bananas and apples and oranges and bottled water and peanut butter crackers in my trunk. I feed homeless people under the bridge every Saturday morning. And then I take a team with me. We go out to different various places with our activism, with our signs. But I always have people ask me. And they know I'm the atheist guy. They call me Banana Man, the homeless people, because I give bananas. Hey, David, the Banana Man's here. Yeah. Thank you, David. And they want to know, why would I be good? And I try to explain to people, this is innate in us as a social animal. Very simple. I tell them, go watch PBS. Watch your PBS nature shows. Look how other social animals care for each other and love each other. So it's time we tell people we do have ethics, we do have morals built into the very nature of the human animal as a social species. David Hume talked about it, the innate emotions we have to care for one another. Immanuel Kant talked about it, about reason. We have big brains. I don't know about my brain so much, big, but we have big brains, right, as primates, as Homo sapiens. We test these things to know what is right and wrong. All right, that was number one. So ethical values. We believe in this, the ethical moral life. Number two, life's fulfillment. Now, we're talking about existentialism. How can you have fulfillment? Now, when I drive to the Atheist Community of Austin studio to do my show, I got another one coming up this Thursday, and Andrew's coming on my show, my friend, this Thursday. As I drive down this particular street, I pass two large megachurches. They're brilliant. They have mastered this. They've had 1,700 to 2,000 years to master this. And it works. They have signs up. You find meaning here in life. You can find happiness here. You can find purpose in life here. You are loved here, and that's all good. Basically, what's happening there is just like here. People get together, we have fun, have relationships and all that, right? But people go there for that particular reason. Many of them do. Life's fulfillment, having a fulfilled life, emerges from individual participation in service. Notice I said service, participation, getting involved of humane ideas, getting outside ourselves, right? I remember preaching as a young man back in the 70s and 80s about you have a God-shaped hole. Anybody ever heard that? You're born with this hole. You're empty. You can't have a fulfilled life if you become an atheist or agnostic or an unbeliever or whatever. And actually, it's not true. We can have fulfilled lives. I think of the Bible stories back in Ecclesiastes. Brilliant writing here, if you think about it. I used to preach it all the time. Ecclesiastes, a Song of Solomon. Solomon allegedly said, I tried everything in the world to find fulfillment in life. I had 1,000 women. I wonder if they had Viagra back then. I don't know. He was an old guy, right? He said he had 1,000 women. I wonder if he beat Wilt Chamberlain's record. I don't know. And he tried all the riches of the world. He had riches and wealth and wives and concubines. But yet at the end of the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible, it says, vanity, vanity, all's vanity. Emptiness. I couldn't find fulfillment in life. The conclusion of the matter is this, and preachers use this all the time, and it works. I mean, I used to do it too. The conclusion of the matter is this: fear God and keep His commandments. This is the whole duty of man. That's how you find fulfillment. Now, some people need that. Fine. I'm not mad at them. I want everybody to have freedom and right to believe whatever they want, as long as you keep it out of the politics, the government, and public schools. Other than that, you can have your beliefs. I want freedom for everybody. So fulfillment in life. If I had a chance to talk to Solomon, if we could bring him back with a time machine, I'd sit down with him and say, dude, you were thinking about yourself too much. Get your mind off of yourself. Think about others. You can find fulfillment in life. All right, number 3. I'm going to go quick because I want to end this thing so we can do Q&A. Number 3, humans are social by nature and find meaning in relationships. Here we go again. Meaning in life. How can you have a life of meaning without belief in the supernatural? I get it all the time. Just yesterday morning, I went out by myself, passing out the cards to people out there at Lady Bird Lake in urban Austin. There's a lot of secular folks. There's always still a few angry fundamentalist Christians. I meet a lot of my progressive Christian friends and allies. Notice I said our friends and allies, progressive Christians. They're 90% humanists. They just don't know it. But they're great people. We have friends. Christina and I meet with people for dinner and all who are very progressive Christians, and they're very similar to us in so many ways. But social by nature, and we do find meaning in relationships. And that's another good thing about these secular communities, isn't it? It helps you to find meaning in life. There are many ways to do that. I understand you had a really smart guy here. You have a lot of smart folks here. Speaking a few weeks ago, and you got another smart guy coming up in a couple weeks, Dan Barker. Please tell Dan Barker I said hi. I met him one time, and we share the same background. He was a big-time preacher. I was a little-time preacher, but very similar backgrounds. Smart guy. Sorry, I got off track there. Professor Anthony Penn. Will, when do I get to meet Professor Anthony Penn? You got to introduce me to him. Now, quote from Professor Anthony Penn: "The markers of meaningful existence," remember, making meaning in life without God's, "are only measurable within the context of something larger than yourself." Right? Pretty simple concept. Preachers say it. We who are secular say it. It's analogous throughout humanity. We're all going to say you find meaning in relationships are good ways to do that. Now, I had a hard time when I made my change in 1989. I started preaching at age 19 back in 1976. You can do the math. I'm getting old, 62. I still feel pretty young. But in 1989, I had to let that stuff go. I couldn't believe it anymore. To be honest with you, I had a hard time for a year or two. I felt like the prodigal son. You remember that story? I was out there, just wandering around in nihilism. It was hard. But you know what I did? Instead of going back to my old comfort zone, it was tempting. I didn't go back. I couldn't go back. Couldn't believe it anymore. So I started reading science, philosophy. I learned about Charles Darwin. I always was told that he was Satan's progeny, Satan's firstborn son. I was raised that way by my father, who's a Pentecostal retired pastor. And some of you may know this. I don't want to get off into that, but there is a cost for what I do. Because I lost my father. He disowned me a year and a half ago totally because of what I do. So there is a cost if you want to do what I do. You lose some friends, some family, even though you love people, but some people can't handle differences, right? To me, love should overcome these differences, but it's hard for some people to understand that. But it was hard for me those first couple of years. But I started reading, studying. I had to recreate myself. I didn't have friends. I lost my whole community. I lost everybody that was close to me when I made my change in 1989. I had no friends. I had no computer back then. It was me alone with my books and my thoughts, all alone, learning and rethinking and learning this natural world. All I knew was the Jesus bubble. My confirmation bias bubble was burst open. I didn't know anything else except for the Bible. For 32 years, I lived that lifestyle. So I had to recreate and find meaning in my life, and I did. And it's been a wonderful journey, and I continue to grow into a more fully developed ethical and moral life. That's my goal. My son, who's a Christian, he's 33 years old, introduces me to his Christian friends as my moral philosopher, atheist father, who I love. That's it. I'd rather be known as a moralist than an amoralist or immoralist, right? I like to be good to people. I think all of us would agree to be nice. All right, and number 4, here's another one. We have answers for positive acclamations. Benefiting society maximizes individual happiness. Finding happiness and joy in a secular life. In our society, it's hard. How do I know? I used to be a preacher, number one. And number two, 30 years of experience of talking to believers. Most of them are wonderful people, but they just don't understand how you can be happy being an unbeliever. There are so many ways. Aristotle talked about happiness. All the way up through Epicurus, David Hume, and all the way up. The philosophers explained it. There are many ways to find happiness. But I find that benefiting others, especially the less fortunate, those of us that give to those that are deep in need, will make you happy. I said this quote to one of my Christian clients. I'm a personal trainer. I have to do something for a living. And I've got a few more years before I retire. I can't wait. I'm counting the days, the years, a few more years. And one of my clients is a Christian, and several of them are. And they know I'm an atheist. We just keep that over here, and we're not good to each other. We have good relationships. But I did mention one thing. I quoted this to him. I said, benefiting society and others maximizes individual happiness. He goes, oh my gosh, that's awesome. That's something my preacher talks about every Sunday morning. He goes, where'd you get that, David? Because you're an atheist. I said, the Humanist Manifesto. And that, by the way, that's what I'm quoting today. Y'all know. I'm stealing it from Paul Kurtz. Thank you, brother Paul Kurtz. I've read so many of his books. So yeah, and I explained it to my client. Humanist Manifesto. I said, yeah, we're all the same. We're human. We know this. So benefiting society maximizes individual happiness. I had one of our friends, I'm not going to mention his name. It's not one of you two guys, but one of the other guys that go out with me sometimes to feed homeless and go out and do activism, has a serious problem with depression. And it makes me sad to see people that are hurting. You know what I'm talking about? We want people to be happy. And he suffers with severe depression. And I contacted him saying, I need somebody to go out with me and help me this Saturday. Will you go? He said, David, I don't think I can make it. I'm very depressed. I'm off my medication. I can't afford any medication because we don't have universal health care. Whole nother topic. And I just don't feel like it. I said, look, give it a try. Just come out, please help me. He said, okay. So he showed up, and poor guy, he was dragging. And I was out there passing out the food from my trunk. And I probably had 50 people in the line there waiting for food. And he came out, and I watched him change from depression. And I let him do it. I said, go on, you do it. I got back. I took some pictures like I usually do, videos, and talk to people. And as I saw him passing out food to less fortunate people, having human compassion on other people, that's what we do as humanists, right? I saw him change. His personality altered from this to this. And he started smiling. He looked happy. 10 minutes later, I asked him, I said, Tom, his name is not Tom. I don't want to say his true name. I said, Tom, how do you feel now? And he goes, oh my gosh, I feel really good now. I feel happy. I just feel better. Thanks for asking me to come. Why is that? Pretty simple. Right? Benefiting others maximizes individual happiness. But those people that are non-secular don't understand that. Now, one more story, and I'm going to close. I think I'm ahead of schedule here, believe it or not. I'm going to look at my Lord and Savior Google and see where I'm at. Oh, I still got 8 minutes. It's a miracle. I did it. Usually when I do public speaking, I'm like, oh, don't have enough time. Let me tell you this story real quick. I love these preacher stories, and you can get a lot of these on my show, my Preaching Humanist show. Probably about 2 or 3 months ago, I had to go to the Apple store in Barton Creek Mall in South Austin, if you've been there. Because I'm a technologically challenged older guy. This stuff I don't know a thing about. I depend upon those millennials, those smart folks, you know. So I went in there. I couldn't get my phone to work right. And I drive Christine crazy, always asking her help. So I went into the Apple store. And I said, please, young man. I made him laugh. I walked in there and said, young man, help this old guy with my phone. Can you help me? And he started laughing, you know. And he goes, okay, sir. You may sit down here at the back table. So he sat me down at this back table. waiting for the next employee, young, smart millennials to help me out, younger than my kids, because my kids are in their mid-30s. And anyway, he sat me down at this table, and he said, "The gentleman will be here shortly, sir." I said, "Thank you, I'll wait here." That's my Mr. Haney impression. You fellow baby boomers remember Green Acres? Mr. Haney. Anyway, you're so silly, David. I like to be silly sometimes. Making people laugh is good. So I sat down there, and I noticed there were about 8 other people in this big circular table waiting for the next employee to come by. And I noticed, and I always say this story, I call it Apple Store Baptist Deacon. Apple Store Baptist Deacon was there. You know the type, right? Not a progressive Christian, our friends and allies. He was on a mission. I know that look. I'm like a hound dog. I can smell it a mile away. That guy was just like me 30 years ago. I was out to save everybody for Jesus. That was my job. And he was in his mid-40s or so. So he was talking to one of the millennials next to him. And I heard him, and he was saying, "Oh, yeah, God. Yeah, good, God's good," and all this. I was like, "Oh, man, okay, this guy's getting after it." And he looked up at me, and he goes, "Good morning, sir." I went, "Whoa, might want to consider some decaf, next time." Anyway, and he said, "How are you doing?" I said, "I'm doing good, thanks." And he said, "Well, I just celebrated my 20th wedding anniversary with my wife, and we're blessed." I went, "Okay, that's good." I said, "What do you mean blessed?" He goes, "God." I went, "Okay." I said, "Well, it's interesting. Now, here's a perfect opportunity. This is me. I used to be an evangelist, and I'm nice about it." I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, actually, Christine and I have been together for 4 years, living in sin." I didn't say that. But we've been together for 4 years, and we're getting married. And we did get married, by the way, in July. Thank you. Up in Spokane, Washington. Yeah. And where her folks live. Anyway, so I said, "Well, actually, Christine and I have a wonderful relationship too. And we're both atheists." I smiled. That's how I talked to them. He went, "What?" I went, "Yeah." And he said, "I've never been happier." And that's my method to talk to people. I mean, we love people. We're all the same. And I went, "Yeah, and I'm an atheist." He goes, and all of a sudden you could hear like a pin drop. And all the millennials, now it's Austin, a lot of nuns. You folks got to let me come back and talk about how to reach the nuns. It's a whole other topic because they're out there. The N-O-N-E-S. Not these nuns, the other ones, right? And so we were sitting there, and I looked at him. I said, "Sir," I said, "I've never been happier." And you could hear a pin drop, and the millennials are like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Somebody's standing up to this bully here," because some of them are bullies. That's where I stand up. I'm a nice guy with them, but sometimes you got to stand up for the bullies, right? And so he looked at me, and he changed from this real loving, happy guy. He was going to tell me all about things, and he was like this now. Give me that look. And he said, "Sir, that is impossible." I went, "Oh, really?" And I said, "What is that, sir?" He goes, his words, and all the millennials are sitting there going, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this." And my old preacher clicked. I was thinking, I got more people here, the better. I'm used to it. I like it. And because my daddy raised me right. He raised me how to work the crowd and preach. So, anyways, if you saw my father preach, we're very similar, except the message is a little different, but very similar style. Anyway, and I looked at him, and I thought to myself, this is a perfect opportunity. I said, "Sir, actually," and I did this, and I went, drum roll. I said, "You're actually wrong." I said, "Actually, here's why." I said, "You can find happiness with being an atheist." And he didn't like that. So I began to explain to him differences and how you can find meaning in life, purpose in life. So it is time for those of us who identify secular to take this positive alternative to theistic religion. And it is positive. We got a lot of good things to talk about. Love. I like love. I like happiness. I like joy. And I've got a couple minutes, and I'm going to read you one thing Thank you again, Paul Kurtz, and those who have laid the foundation, principles of truth for us. We, as secular people, hold on, I got to get my geezer glasses on so I can see. We, as secular people, believe in optimism. I'm going to give you a steady dose of optimism. I've been told, oh my gosh, David, you drive me crazy. You're so optimistic. I'd rather be optimistic than pessimistic. But I'm not preaching a utopia, folks. Don't worry. There's not a perfect world. I see secular humanism. It's better in a lot of ways. It ain't perfect, but it's better. It's good. We believe in optimism rather than pessimism. Hope rather than despair. I remember the old days. Our hope is built. I'm not a singer. I'm a piano player. On nothing less. Remember that song? Then Jesus' blood of righteousness. Hope. Can you have hope outside of belief in God? You can have hope. We do have hope. We have hope in science and reason and technology progressing ahead, making the world better. Because it works. We believe in learning in the place of dogma. We believe in truth. Absolute truth? Maybe not. But we search for it. We want to test it and find out what's true. Truth instead of ignorance. Joy. I already talked about that. We believe in joy and happiness rather than guilt or sin. We believe in tolerance in the place of fear. Do you fear death? I get that from believers. No, I really don't. I quote Mark Twain. I do not fear death, for I have been dead for billions of years before I was born, and have not suffered the slightest inconvenience from it. I'm not afraid of death. Don't want to suffer, but I'm not afraid. Joy rather than guilt. Love. Oh, here's a good one. We all like love. Love instead of hatred. Love is nice, isn't it? It's the old oxytocin in the brain producing these chemicals. And to love, to be, as a social animal, to love others. And I've had it from many people. I've had it from pastors. Tell me, David, there's no way you can know what love is. You're an atheist. Oh, you're killing me, man. Do you love your children and grandchildren more than I do? I've asked many of them. It's a tough one for them. Love is human. And you may steal this quote from me, one of my favorite quotes of all time. Love is not a religious, a Christian, a godly, a biblical, or any religious feeling. It is a human emotion, right? A human feeling. No God, no Bible, no religion, no Jesus, no Muhammad is needed to define love nor to explain love. I think we have that. And I like to share it with other people, let people know we can experience that without any supernatural beliefs. We believe in compassion over selfishness. Where's compassion? I thought I read it up there. I guess I didn't. But I know y'all believe in compassion. It's part of the human experience. We believe in compassion over selfishness. I get that all the time. Had a lady the other day upset at me for trying to explain to me, tell me, oh, you humanists. Humanism is all about you. Meism. Where did you get this information? It's not. It's compassion for other people. We believe in beauty instead of ugliness. And last but certainly not least, reason rather than blind faith or irrationality. And as I end every single Preaching Humanist show on my YouTube show, I say, it's time for us to let the light of secular humanism shine to others and let them know. Thank you.
Okay. It's 11:53.
Sorry, I did 32 minutes. Forgive me. 70 times 7.
11:53. We have time for maybe 2 questions before we end. And then David says he's going to be around, hang around in this room. If we don't get to your question, he can talk to you then. So, any questions?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I've always been a little curious as to why there's so many different secular groups. Is it mostly because of geographical locations is harder to drive, or is it philosophies, or Is there any way to get them to
Yeah, that's
join?
a good question. We have the 4 or 5 in Austin. To me, my experience doing this for a long time, and I'm a member of all 4 or 5 of them, pretty much I keep my foot in each one, trying to keep solidarity and grow under the secular tent. I think it's different philosophy, different objectives and goals. For example, Atheist Community of Austin, they're the best. Come on, Matt Dillahunty, all those folks, they're the best at philosophical debating. That's their spoke in the wheel. I gave you my next message at my YouTube show, the spoke in the wheel. And then the humanist group have a little different objective. I think it's just different goals, different strengths, different abilities. I hope that helps you. I think that's what it is.
All right, one more question right here.
I have a question about humanism, the word humanism. If we call ourselves humanism, I mean, it's kind of a notion that we ignore animals because there is another word as post-humanism. So yeah, maybe you also said that one person was talking about humanism, and so post-humanism and humanism and other entities, other animals. So
I hope I understood you. I think you were cutting out. I didn't hear everything. Did you talk about other species of animals other than humans?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a part. If you read all of the affirmations of secular humanism, it is not just humans. We want all animal species.
So most people, they consider human as just human, not other species. Most people, the notion as human, just all about human, not other species. Maybe post-humanism,
Yeah, no, they're good. Some people are like that, but good news is there's a lot of people that do, because we're just another species of animal, according to science.
Yeah.
We want all others to flourish, too.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Thank you.
All right, that's all we have time for, but David will be hanging around after we wrap up today to answer any more questions or talk to you if you want to talk about anything else. And I'll hand it off to Alexis.
Thank you, Alexis.
Thank you so much.